So I'm gonna.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for our second webinar series in the series that HITA, or the Hawaii Interpreters and Translators Association, is putting on. We're very excited that all of you could be here, and we're excited that we actually can have these series that we're putting on every few months. Some of you have become members of HITA, others uh, have really don't even know what it is, but the Hawaii Interpreters and Translators Association is one that has started in the 90s, but it kind of went dormant for a while. And then we, and it's been around, and then we kind of restarted it with a new association feel, and we've had national recognition. We've had so many people write to us wondering what it is we do, and they've been inviting us to some of their seminars and workshops, and even we have gotten requests to even we've gotten scholarships for. They say, hey, we're willing to give a scholarship for the first 5 people who sign up for this or that, this or that. So I'm just going to show you a little bit about HITA, and then we're going to, with no further delay, we're going to move on to our guest speaker today. But in the meantime, a lot of you have been to our website already. And this is our HITA website, the Hawaii Interpreters and Translators Association. And you can learn as soon as you scroll down, you'll see some upcoming events. So these are the most recent events that we put up here. And of course, the first one being today. And whenever you see something like this on the website and you click on it, it will open another link to it. And then you can also, the last seminar we had was special education IEP meetings, interpreting for schools. And those of you who were here, I don't know if you know this, but we sent out a link to our resource page to the HITA members. So if you are a member, you will have links to a resource page that has all kinds of information for IEP meetings, and as well as for phone and video interpreting. So we'll have a resource page for this one as well. And we're building our resources on our HITA site that those of you who are members are free to access. We also will record today's as well as last time. And so we have a video recording of this. So just to let you know, again, if you click on there, it will take you to the link. And then you can learn more about the membership and what we do, and a little bit about our background, and things that we hope to do. We're getting together in the future. Some of you are experts at what you do, and we would love to have a seminar with maybe you or your colleagues speaking. And if you have anything you'd like to offer, that would be great. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to join HITA, you can click on here and it explains. I just wanted to say one thing is that those of you who joined in 2024, oh, this needs to be changed. It should say 2025. But those of you who joined last year, 2024, you do not need to pay another membership. You will actually be rolled over into 2025. So it's only $20, and that gives us that goes to support our website and all of the activities that we're doing, and ours and future webinars and anything that we need to spend some money on. But anyway, we also want to offer scholarships for classes and things for our members. So we have a lot of plans, a lot of ideas, and we will be having annual membership. Again, here's some news and events. If you click on that, you will see that there's all kinds of news and events from all over the nation that we put in here. If you're interested in the healthcare Congress that they're having, it's really good. We went last year, and then this is for today. And then you can see some other things that we have and things in the past as well, some past workshops. So that's something that we hope all of you will go to, and you can actually learn more about us and learn about who your leaders are down here. And so today we have Patricia Rowland with us, and then these are our leaders for this year, this coming year, until our next annual voting comes up, which is coming up soon. So again, we're hoping that a lot of you will be interested because you have a lot to give, not just a lot to learn, but a lot to give. So it would be great that when we get together. And so at the end, if you have some questions, whether on the speaker or about HITA, feel free to ask. It'd be great to see you. So, all right. And then Patricia is monitoring the chat, I think, right, Patricia? So we're going to let you do that. So today, Um,
Yes, I am. And
Go ahead.
so if you have any questions during the talk, you can just put them in the chat and okay, I'll pass them on.
Great. All right. So, without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Um, and I suppose I should pull up the website, see. But Tayyab Rehman is all the way from Pakistan. So thank you for coming today. It's probably midnight his time. But I'm going to share my screen one more time and so that you can see actually what I'm doing, all about him. And you've probably seen this, but he's actually received his master's degree in English Lit, and you can read about it on our website as well. In science from Science and Technology University in Pakistan, and he's been doing this for 10 years already. He's been working remotely as a medical court interpreter and other interpreting, but like 5 languages. And I'm going to have him tell us his languages when he begins. But we are very happy to have him. He also has worked for a number of remote companies in various ways. He even did some uh, data research for some companies to have them find out what's going on in various parts of the world and what their needs are, uh, to help them, expand. But he also does and trains interpreters. So he recently established Comfy Bilinguals. It's a remote interpreting company, has over 50 languages and has over a number of people. So it's exciting to see him grow. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share his PowerPoint and then we're going to let him take over. So let me go ahead and share this. So thank you. We want to give him a round of applause, and we really appreciate him being here today. So I have to move all of this. There we go. All right. And Tayyab, I think we can have you um, somehow in the corner as you're giving your presentation. So we're going to have you take it away and all yours.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. And again, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak in front of such talented, qualified, and certified professionals. And I'm deeply grateful to Dr. Zhang and HITA for granting me this honor to being today's speaker. And I will strive to be as clear, specific, and and to the point as possible. Thank you again. My name is Tayyab, and I've done master's degree in English literature, and I got to step into this field somewhere in the beginning of 2015, and I've been working as a medical interpreter in 5 different languages for the past 10 years. And I've trained so many interpreters, and that is for the company, in friendship, or for God knows so many reasons. I'm still an interpreter, and now I've established my own company. I've invested a lot, lost a lot, and unfortunately, I've gained nothing yet, but still working on it. And hopefully, someday God's gonna give me a thumbs up, as being said. Hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst. Anyway, I feel so incredible sometimes that to think that I was among the first interpreters selected by US based company, that was Dr. Zhang's Language Services Hawaii. You know, it made a history as the first organization to hire an international interpreter directly from Pakistan. At that time, home-based interpretation was virtually non-existent in my country and in Pakistan. And this groundbreaking opportunity paved way for many other for many other interpreters, for many other people. That's a long story for some other day. Um, Hopefully, we'll meet again. But after March 2021, the industry began to shift, with more interpreters realizing the potential of working with global agencies. However, being the very first interpreter hired from Pakistan and by such a reputable company as Language Services Hawaii is a milestone. I don't say it very often, but I'm deeply proud of it. And it signifies not just personal achievement, but also transformational moment for the field of interpretation in my region. That was my introduction of where I come from, how I got into this field, and now we're going to be talking about the training and why is it so important, and what are the best practices as an interpreter. And I will welcome any questions that you might have at the end of our session. Now, let's talk about the training and why is it so important. I mean, every bilingual has an ability to interpret, even though they are not interpreters by profession. But in 99% of the cases, the providers choose us, the remote interpreters, to interpret for their patients. You know why? Because they believe in us. They trust that we are professionals and experienced. And to maintain that reputation, we interpreters need to be professionals. If you're a medical interpreter, you need to have strong command on medical terms, and if you're a court interpreter, you need to have a good command on court-related terms. The same goes for the interpreter in other niches. Now, let me give you a small example of why you should have a good command of the terms in your niche. You take a car to a mechanic and tell him that its gas tank is leaking. Now, if if that mechanic is not professional, he start asking you questions or goes on YouTube, start typing how to fix a gas tank leak for this specific car, whatever. Um, would you still trust that mechanic with your vehicle? Of course not. I wouldn't do so. You would take your vehicle to an experienced and trained mechanic who actually knows how to fix it, right? The same goes for the interpreters as well and the companies. Get training, train yourself. You don't need to know everything because that's impossible, right? But at least you should be aware of the general protocols, the interventions, medical terms, just to sound professional. Because if I'm a client, or I'm running a clinic or a hospital, I would take my business to another company, some company that trains its interpreters on regular basis and keep them updated on the medical and court terms as well as HIPAA laws. And if the company itself does not stay up to date uh, and does not focus on trainings and training the interpreters, it will lose clients as well as partners. Now, I would like to quote the CEO. I don't know what his name was, but he was the CEO of the cellular company called Nokia. I don't know if you guys remember that company or not, but in his very last conference, he said, "We did nothing wrong, but still failed." You know why? Because other companies were busy introducing new technologies, but Nokia was releasing the same phone every year, just with different cases. I don't know if I should name the company or not, but I just named it. No problem. So, companies need to prioritize the training interpreters in the laws and protocols of interpreting. This is the main reason why we are here today and get to know each other and learn from each other. Now, we are going to cover four topics today. And the first one is going to be about the industries, about the industry that are, leveraging interpreting services. So, what are those industries? The first one, and the very important one, is the healthcare industry. Yeah. So, first, imagine a patient visiting the clinic or a hospital where the doctor doesn't speak their language. This is where the remote interpreting comes in. It plays a crucial role in medical appointments, ensuring that the patient can communicate their systems, understand their diagnosis, and follow the treatment plan accurately. Whether it's a routine checkup or a more complex consultation, having access to an interpreter in real time eliminates misunderstandings and ensure that patient feels heard and respected. Telemedicine. I don't see the screens somehow. Okay, telemedicine. So, you know, this is this is where handling healthcare related services remotely became the trend. And this trend was not only significant for healthcare professionals, but also for remote interpreters. Communication between the patient and the doctor through an interpreter had become so easy. Number three, mental health counseling. So, mental health counseling is another area where remote interpreting has made profound impact. For individuals seeking therapy, it's essential that they can express themselves freely um, and deeply in their native language. A remote interpreter actually acts as a bridge, allowing counselor to understand the patient's emotions and thoughts accurately. This hold on. This is particularly significant because the mental health is such a personal and sensitive matter. Second industry. The second industry is legal industry. I mean the courts. So legal sector is also one of the industries that where remote interpreting plays pivotal role ensuring justice and fairness for everyone, regardless of the language that they speak. Now, court hearings. Now let's talk court hearings. First, consider the court hearings. These are formal setting where every word matters. When someone is involved in a case, whether it is the defendant, the prosecutor, or anyone with the language, you know, with any language barriers in the courtroom, as the right to a fair trial. That is where the remote interpreters hop in to fill the gap and make sure everybody understands what's being said and respond accordingly. Number two is depositions. So depositions are basically the pre-trial testimonies given under oath. They can be complicated, sometimes like for a layman, especially for a layman, it can be complicated because for me as well, I've never attended a court. So if I'm not a court interpreter, I would never know. Interpreters' jobs here is to make sure everybody understands each other and their responses and queries are conveyed properly to the attorneys and other parties. Number three, client consultation. This is another key area. Now, client consultation can be a general meeting between a solicitor and a client to get a legal advice in important matters like immigration cases, family disputes, and criminal defense cases. Interpreters have an important role in making LEPs understand about the legal and fundamental rights, which empowers them to take sensitive decisions. Moving on to the next industry, which is customer support and call centers. Now, customer support and call centers is one of the industry that uses and utilizes the remote interpreting services, where most of the big giants, the big companies like Pfizer, Johnson and Johnson's, and United Healthcare, they provide service nationwide. And by nationwide, I mean both the English-speaking individuals and those who struggle with the English in their day-to-day lives. The the population of the LEPs alone in the United States is between 25 to 30 million. So obviously they need interpreters when the company those call centers obviously need interpreters when they have to conduct business with non-English speaking customers. Next industry is education. Education is also one of the biggest industries that utilize the interpreting services. And mainly we have to deal with the parent-teacher conference. Uh, First, consider the parent-teacher conferences. While the children in their school are exposed to an English-speaking environment, but their parents may have been born and raised in a non-English speaking country. In many cases, the student might have different abilities, such as struggling with mental disorders. In such situation, parent-teacher conferences become, crucial for updating parents on their child's progress, challenges, and achievements. And due to their non-English background, parents may require interpreters like us, you and me, to ensure they feel heard and understood. Next industry is government and public services. This is where the interpreters play a crucial role in promoting inclusivity and accessibility. Number one in this sector is immigration services. So immigration services is an area where people from all over the world interact with the officials to process visa, the citizenship applications, or asylum claims. Language barriers can lead to misunderstandings, delays, and even critical errors. And remote interpreters ensure clear communication, enabling immigrants and to understand their rights and responsibilities while engaging with their system confidently and effectively. Number two is social services. This is very important. Like we receive almost one third of the calls every day from this industry. These services actually support the individuals and the families in need, often during difficult times. They provide assistance with the housing, child welfare, and community programs. Remote interpreters work closely with social services and ensure that the LEP feels empowered, helping them to move beyond their current challenges and focus on their long-term goals. Next one is like 911, the emergency services like 911. Um, you know, they handle hundreds of thousands of cases every single day, and often the individual in those individuals who are in the crisis calling them, they don't speak their language. So 911 is one of the emergency services they have to utilize the interpreting services. Moving on to question number two. Number second, what steps are required to establish a career in this field? Now, here are some key steps that we need to talk about. Uh, Understanding the basics of interpreting. This is very easy. To become interpreter is not a rocket science. It's very easy. You can learning the basics of the interpreting for the people like you. Uh, it shouldn't take more than 3 days. If you speak two languages, you're a bilingual, which means you speak two languages. It's very easy for you to become an interpreter. And if you dedicate 2 days, if you dedicate 3 days, 2 hours a day, that will include the basic. Uh, Sorry, hold on. So learning the basic of interpretation for people like you shouldn't take more than 3 days if you dedicate only 2 hours each day. So the basics of the basics include learning the medical terminologies in both languages, which would take one day. And on the second day, you will just focus on understanding the protocols. And on the third day, you actually practice these scenarios. In just 3 days, you can become a qualified interpreter. However, mastering everything requires experience, and experience comes with time and consistent practice. Ooh. Number two, obtain proper education and training. So, while there is no single path to becoming an interpreter, it's basically regarding my company. So, me and my partners, we had the discussion other day, and we are planning a training program which is going to begin soon. It's going to be especially for those who are not interpreters and who want to become interpreters. And this program is going to be either for free, it will be free of cost. Uh, if it was only for me, I mean, I would have offered it free. But we're still working on it. Hopefully, it will be free, or it will cost very minimum amount. It will not be that much expensive. Skipping this part. Getting certified. Number three, getting a certification from the agencies like NBCMI, which is the National Board of Certification for Medical Interpreter, enhances your credibility and adds an official stamp on your skills. If you apply for a job at a reputable firm like Voice, Seracom, Language Line Solutions, you will receive priority over non-certified interpreters. Number five, or is it number four? Anyway, number four, specialize in your niche. So if you're a medical interpreter, focus on mastering medical terminologies. Similarly, if you're a court interpreter, gain expertise in in legal terms. This demonstrates that your professionalism and dedication to your role. Next, stay updated. Using social media these days plays an important role in securing jobs like this. You can create a WhatsApp group. We have one, our local community, Pashto and Punjabi speaking community. So you can create a WhatsApp group, a Facebook group, a LinkedIn group, and you can invite your colleagues from your community. And everyone can contribute wherever they find job. They just post it in the group, and there you go. You can apply for different jobs every day. Okay. Next, applying for the jobs and freelance opportunities. Once you have trained and ready to get started, you can start applying for remote interpreting jobs. And many interpreters, work with the agencies directly or with the clients, either on full-time basis or freelance basis. But a website like Upwork, pros.com, and LinkedIn can help you find remote opportunities. Question number 3. What are the standard rates for interpreters? Okay, so this question, this is a question that comes up often, because pricing can vary a lot depending on different factors. And I will break those factors down for you to understand that. That's easy for you to understand. And I will also compare the rates inside and outside the US. Factor number 1, mode of interpreting. So if you're talking about the on-site interpreting, it's usually more expensive. Why? Because interpreters might have to travel or stay overnight or spend additional time away from their base. This will add extra cost. So compare that with remote interpreting, like over the phone and VRI, video remote interpreting. These options are generally more affordable because interpreters don't have to travel anywhere. Factor number 2 is a language pair. So in the US, in the United States, the languages like Pashto, the one that I speak, or Tagalog can be harder to source and tend to have high rates compared to widely spoken languages like Spanish or French, because those languages are widely spoken. So rates also depends upon the availability. For example, the interpreters of the Pashto interpreter in my country, in Pakistan, may charge less than one in the US, due to lower cost of living and greater local availability. Next factor is its experience and certification. Yeah, we have discussed this earlier. So more experienced interpreter or those with high level of certification can demand premium rates. It's the same everywhere in the world. Expertise and qualification matter, but the rates will reflect the local market upon, the availability in the language pair. And now getting into rate ranges. Okay, so on-site interpreting, alone in the US, it may cost up to for starting from $25 up to $40 per hour, depending upon the distance and the location from base. Again, but in-person interpreter or on-site interpreter, they have to hire an interpreter for 2 to 3 hours minimum. But from outside the US, like in India and Pakistan, it can be $7 or $12 per hour for the similar work. Now, over the phone interpreting. In the US, OPI services typically cost around starting from 45 cents up to 90 cents per minute. And outside the US, you can find the same services starting from 15 cents up to 25 cents a minute. That depends on the interpreter's location and language. And video remote interpreting, actually, it's some companies might pay a few more cents more than OPI rates, but it's almost the same. I haven't seen any significant difference in between the OPI and VRI rates. Now, what's next? So different companies to apply for. Okay, so I would have told you to take the screenshot of this, but no need to. Basically, I have the list of all the interpreting companies that are located in the US, that I'll be more than happy to share with you guys. I'll send it to Dr. Zhang, and she can further send it to you guys, or you can contact me directly. We can sort it out. But I have the list. You can apply. If you're a medical interpreter, I mean, you can apply with the companies. So these are some of the companies that I've worked with. That is Certified Languages International, Transperfect, Serocom International, Linguava, and Global Fruit. AMN Healthcare, actually, it's they hire only US based interpreters. But rates, just make sure they pay you well. Moving on to the next question. What professional standards are expected within the industries? So when it comes to the professional standards, in the interpreting industry, there are certain expectations that ensure the interpreters maintain quality, integrity, reliability, and these standards are universally respected and are critically important for maintaining trust between all parties involved. Let's break it down. Number one is confidentiality. This one, confidentiality, this is very important, especially when we are talking about the medical interpreting. Because I remember I heard or read a story somewhere that there was a nurse who somehow sold the information of his of her patient without his consent, and later on that patient, when he got to know, he sued that facility, that clinic or hospital, and I believe they had to pay him $1 million or $5 million. I don't exactly remember the exact figure, but this is what it was. So we have to maintain confidentiality. Like whatever you do with the notes, you take notes, just immediately destroy all the notes that you have, and make sure when you're interpreting, because we're working from home, there can be a lot of different things going on around us. Make sure that nobody's listening to you or hearing to you. Just be private. Maybe get a corner room for yourself or away from the general public. Moving on to the next. What is next? Next is proper introduction to the client and LEP. Okay, this is where you start handling calls. um, when you're a remote interpreter, there is a screen in front of you. The bell rings and you pick up the call, and then on the other side of the call there's a client, and you properly introduce yourself to the client, mainly with four things. Number one is a name, language, ID number, and disclosure. This can be like, um, I'll say the whole phrase. My name is Tayyab, and I'm going to be a Pashto interpreter. My ID number is 1093369, and the disclosure, everything you say will be interpreted and remain confidential. How may I help you? So when you say, how may I help you, he knows what to do next. He starts giving you about the information about, whatever is going on. Either the LEP is there with him, or you need to dial out for him, whatever the scenario is. So then you introduce yourself to the client. He asks you to, if he's there with you, he asks you to introduce yourself to him. If not, you can ask the client, may I please introduce myself to the LEP? He says, sure, go ahead and introduce yourself to the LEP as well. You introduce yourself to the LEP, again, the same way you introduce yourself to the client, just taking out your ID number. You don't need to share your ID number with the LEP. It will be for the same. My name is Tayyib. I'm going to be a Pashto interpreter. Please speak in clear and short sentences so that I can interpret everything. Thank you. And that after that, when you're done with the introduction, the LEP and the client, you turn back to the client and tell him that we understand each other and we are ready to talk. And that's where the call begins. And you have to use the protocols, which is the next part. Now, protocols include do's and don'ts. So now comes the real part where you display professionalism, confidentiality, clarity, neutrality, and handle the conversation smoothly. Um, Following are some do's and don'ts that we have to use during the whole session. And number one is speak in first person. Now, I've seen so many interpreters, it they when they start the conversation, they do not use they do not speak in the first speech. For example, the patient says that I'm having an abdominal pain. You go to the doctor and say, hey, I'm having an abdominal pain. Some interpreters will go ahead and say, he's having an abdominal pain, which is wrong. So this the first thing is, uh, um, speak in first person always. Number two, stay polite. I don't think I need to explain this thing, but yeah, stay polite whenever, everywhere, even if you're not interpreting. Number three, stay neutral. Yeah, neutral mean don't take sides. Okay. Now this one of my experiences that I encountered, there was an interview going on in immigration, and there was the immigration officer was interviewing a guy from Punjabi speaking guy, basically. I don't need to take country, name the country. So he he said that there was a threat to my life in my country. And later on during the call, the immigration officer said, interpreter, do you think he's telling the truth? And this is where you have to stay neutral. You don't have to give your personal opinion on that. And I had to say, sorry, this is your interpreter, but I cannot give out my personal opinion. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean that, but there was a case where I was interviewing a guy from Spain, and he came up to me with the they've chopped off his ear, and I think that was a genuine case. Anyway, we don't take sides, okay? We just have to interpret what's being said. Number four, personal information. So, regarding the personal information includes the interpreter's email address, phone number, uh, home address, where he's living, and sometimes the company name as well. So when somebody asks you during the session, during the active session, you do not have to give them your personal information. And you say to them that this is your interpreter, but for security and privacy reason, I'm not allowed to share my personal information. And if you want my information, contact the company your facility has contract with. That's it. Okay. So sometimes the client would ask you, hey, where are you from? Sometimes the LEP, hey, where are you from? No, don't share your personal information. Just stick to your role, which is interpreting. Number five, speak loud and clear. Yeah, so that both party can hear you. It's not that complicated. And number six is keeping the client in the loop. Now, this is very important. Sometimes the LEP, you don't understand something the LEP has said, and you want to clarify. And when you do not keep your client in the loop, he sometimes, he takes it the other way, and he thinks that you're having a side conversation with him. So whatever happens, whatever conversation is going on between the interpreter and the LEP, you must keep the client in the client in the loop. uh, there's another example. When you're dialing out for the patient, for the client, he asks you to dial out. That's where you have to keep him in the loop, and inform him about keep him informed about everything that you're going to do. For example, you're dialing out, and you have the number ready. You say to the client, "This is your interpreter. There'll be a moment of silence while I dial out. I'll be back with you shortly once the phone is answered." So just keep the client in the loop, whatever you're doing. Now move on to the next section, which is don'ts. The things you're not supposed to do. First one is don't omit any part of the message. So don't add means do not say anything extra, and do not cut off anything from the message. If you do not understand the client or the LEP, just ask for the repetition. There is no shame in that. You can ask for repetition as many as time as you want, but again, do not omit or add anything. Number two, don't change the meaning. Now, this is very important as well. Once I handled a case where there was a lady, she was having a pain in the chest, and I received this call, and the doctor was like, "Hey, interpreter, we have been dealing with this lady for like 3 months, and she's constantly complaining about the chest pain while we have done all." Hello. Okay. So we have done. I'm hearing my own voice back. Perfect.
I
So
apologize. I'm trying to mute Joanne. Thank you.
no problem. Okay. So where were we? Sorry.
A
Okay.
lady has been complaining about chest pain
Chest
for
pain,
months.
exactly. Okay, thank you. So she was complaining about the chest pain, while the doctor said, we have run every possible tests that we could, but we didn't find anything. And can you please ask the lady what exactly is going on, because she's all clear, she's all set. Why is she having pain? But that's where I kind of had a doubt. But when I asked them, everything got clear, because she was not having a chest pain. She was having a breast pain. While in Pashto, the word for the chest and the breast is the same. That's where the confusion started. But the other interpreter who was dealing with them for 3 months didn't even realize. So do not change the meaning. Just ask for clarification if you're not sure. Number three, no strange noises. Okay, so this is where there is a lot of things going on when you're a remote interpreter. For example, there is a whole boxing academy outside my house, and they make really heat, they make too much noise, and you have to avoid those. Maybe get a corner room for yourself, or just stay away from the general public while you're interpreting, or maybe get some good quality headset. Mine one just costs $10, but they're way good. Number four, um, we have discussed already. If you don't know something, just check with the with the parties. Okay? Never engage in personal or private conversation with the LEP. I think we've already discussed that, right? So sometimes the LEP would try to, to speak to you during the session while the doctor is there. Sometimes the doctor is not there, and the LEP starts to, want to start conversation with you. Says, "Hey, interpreter, what's your name? Where are you from?" Just simply don't answer, or maybe just you can let them know that we are not allowed to talk when the doctor is not present. Or when the doctor is there, you can, keep the as I said, we can keep the client in the loop. You can say to the doctor, "This is your interpreter. The LEP was asking about my address or where I'm from, but I'm not allowed to share out my personal information." So that's what was going on. Okay.
I think
And
you
never,
skipped number five. You skipped
I
number
skipped
five.
number five. Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Thank you. Whole time. So whole time for the most company, whole time I would say, this is very important because, uh, hold time, if you hold for way too much, they might forget you. Okay, so hold timing, the company will provide you what the hold time is. Holding time is. So for some companies, for a company like Propio, their holding time is about 15 minutes. For the voice, the holding time is 10 minutes. You are not supposed to hold for longer than that. Sometimes the doctor say, "Hey, interpreter, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna come back. Could you wait on the line?" Just tell the doctor that, this is this is your interpreter. I can only wait for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. If you want me to wait for more than that, please come back to me and tell me to wait for 10 more minutes, and I'll be more than happy to wait. Let uh, That's how it works. So whole time is 10 minutes or 15 minutes, depending on the company's protocols. That's it.
What does change the slide mean?
Sorry?
Number five says 10 minutes hold, change the slide.
Oh,
What
sorry.
is that?
It was just a mistake.
Oh, I see.
Typo.
Okay.
Okay. Number next is general interventions. General intervention, we have already discussed this part, but these are actually the actions that interpreter takes to avoid any misunderstandings with the client or the. I think you're stuck. Can you change the slide?
Oh, so number seven or eight, you're not going to talk about?
Oh,
I think I have
sorry.
the latest.
Okay.
Thank you.
Whole time, and then number six, never engage in personal conversation. I think we've already discussed that. Number seven is never disconnect the call. Just notify the client about your urgency. Yeah, this is very important too. Sometimes you have to go, for example, you have to jump into another meeting, or um, you have to go somewhere really urgent. Then you can notify the client. Now, I've been doing it personally, to be very honest. I have disconnected so many calls in the past. I wasn't aware of the protocols, but I had to go somewhere, so I would just disconnect the call. But rather, you can now transfer the call to another interpreters, or let them know, "This is your interpreter. I have to go somewhere really important, or I have to jump into another interview. Can you please give us a call back to get another interpreter, because this is important." Number eight is never relay the wrong information. Yes, again and again, if you're not sure about anything, just clarify with the client, but never relay wrong information. Okay, what is the next is general interventions. For the general intervention, I think we have talked about most of them, but we'll just revise it. So general intervention are basically the actions that um, general interventions actually refer to actions taken by the interpreters to avoid any misunderstanding with LEP, because oftentimes they forget that they have interpreters on the line, and you know they have interpreters on the line and will speak for way too long or way too fast, and sometimes it's very difficult for the interpreters to take notes. So number one would be, if you need to clarify any term with the with the client, so you have to intervene here by saying, "This is your interpreter. Can you please clarify the term Meniere's disease?" Now, just the day before yesterday, there was this medical term that I came across. I've never heard of Meniere disease before, and there is no shame in that. If you don't know anything, you just clarify. And I asked the doctor, "This is your interpreter. I do not know what this term means. Could you please clarify?" And then I know what it is, and I can go ahead with that. If it's mentioned further in the call, I would know what it is. Number two, when the client is speaking too fast. So sometimes the clients, they forget that they have interpreter on the line and they would speak so fast. The interpreter would have hard time taking notes. You can let the client know by using the general interventions. This is your interpreter. Now, every time you intervene, you have to say, "This is your interpreter," because that's when the client is going to know that this is the interpreter saying something. So this is your interpreter. You were speaking so fast. I couldn't note down everything. Could you please repeat yourself one more time, a bit slow? And here's slow down for you. And the next one is longer phrases. Okay, so longer phrases are, sometimes we interpreters have hard time when they're using long phrases. So this is another way. You can even though when we pick up the call, we say, "Please speak in short sentences so that we can interpret everything," but they forget it, and they would still speak in longer sentences. But you have this intervention right to intervene anytime, and you can intervene by saying, "This is your interpreter. To maintain accuracy, could you please break it down for me?" Or, "Could you please break how do you say it? Could you please break that down for me in shorter phrases?" Yeah, that'll be correct sentence. Number four, when you clarify something with the LEP. So if you don't understand anything with the LEP and you want to clarify with him, you must keep the client in the loop, by saying, whether the LEP is speaking too fast or, using long phrases. You clarify with the LEP and you come to the client, just keeping him in the loop, and say, "This is your interpreter. For clarification purposes, I needed a repetition." And this was his response. And then in first person, go ahead and begin the interpreting. Next one is note
And
taking. So,
LEP
sorry?
stands for, one more
Oh,
time, LEP stands for, if you could explain.
limited English proficient. Yes. So, limited English proficient. Okay. So, once we were doing a training session with a company, and I came across this term LEP. So, and I said limited English proficient. This means limited English proficient. So, limited English proficient is the person basically that struggle with day-to-day English. So, when I use this term during that training session, the trainer said, "Never use this term when you're on the call because it sounds disrespectful." I mean, it doesn't sound disrespectful to me, but the trainer told me to. Now, yeah, it means limited English proficient. Yeah. So, um, my trainer told me to not use this term LEP. I never use it. So it's either the Punjabi or Pashto speaking gentleman or lady. Okay, but it means limited English proficient. Clear? Now, note taking. Now, note-taking skill as an interpreter is very important. It just saves you a lot of time, and it helps you take down key points like names, dates, addresses, and it helps you a lot in capturing the structure of main ideas to manage long conversation and short-term memory. And note-taking skills basically makes you a pro interpreter and minimize your omission and mistakes to a greater extent. if you're good at typing, take your notes on computer, and if not, you can always use pen and paper. But make sure the notes that you take, you destroy them afterwards. You don't want to, make them go into the wrong hands. Because if some data, sensitive data, can be lost or stolen, it can cost you dearly, to be honest. I've seen one of my friends actually getting fired for that. It was his mistake. Yeah, it was clearly his mistake. So you got to be careful with the note taking and the all the information that you handle.
I'm
Now,
sorry, getting fired because, could you explain
big
that one more time?
Of course. So he was fired because he did not handle the data of the client. He was actually dealing with the debit card or credit card, I believe, and he made a mistake. He didn't make a, he did it on purpose, actually. He kind of misused the card. He was interpreting a session and he noted down the name of that client, the date of birth, the address, and the debit card number. And he later on applied for a visa of Canada. And he was fired. I don't know how they got him, but he was fired the next day. It was unnecessary, but all right.
Yep, thank you. And I'm just reminding everybody, thank you for your questions. Continue to write your questions in the chat. And at the end, we can bring up these questions.
Of course.
And yeah, thank you.
Okay. Now there are a lot of questions in the chat box. Okay. Now, background noise. Okay. So background noise is a common challenge for remote interpreters. Whenever you work from home, you have your own children. I have mine. They don't make a lot of noise, but yeah, children can be noisy sometimes. Uh, you know, Barking dogs, loud television, or even typing sounds can make interaction less professional and harder for all parties to focus. So to minimize the disruption, get a corner room away from the general public, or get a noise reduction headset. And there are free noise reduction application that you can use on your desktop. But you won't need them. You won't need the application if you have good quality headset and if you're away from the general public. But managing background noise isn't just a courtesy, it's a part of maintaining professionalism in remote interpreting. Now, talking about VRI requirements. So these requirements just see VRI requirements actually isn't let's see, let's discuss it. So you have to have a stable internet connection that applies for OPI as well. You have to have a very good internet connection, even if you're an OPI. But a strong and reliable internet connection is crucially, it's very important to prevent a lag or disruption during the sessions. Proper equipment, we've already discussed this. You have to have a good headset, good laptop, a good device, especially, the company's requirement is about 10, they demand with the device with 4 GB RAM at least, but uh, you can have about the RAM of 8 GBs. I have mine with 16. So proper equipment will help you out. Professional appearance. Since interpreters are visible on the screen, when you're video remote interpreters, you are visible on the screen, and you should, dress appropriately and ensure that their, workspace is clean and distraction free. And background, for most of the companies have their own requirements for the background. Some would ask you for gray background, some ask you for white plain background like mine, but keep it as per protocols of the company you're working for. Last one is sitting properly in the frame. Yeah, don't move. This one sounds stupid to me, but yeah. Don't move. Move out of the frame, like looking for a charger. Yeah, recently there was a complaint filed because I was looking for a charger somewhere, and they just filed a complaint. You know, so maybe just sit tight in the frame and do not move like a robot. So adapting to VRI also requires familiarity with the platform being used, whether it's Zoom, WebEx, or a specialized tool. Technical issues can disrupt the session, so interpreters must be prepared to troubleshoot on the spot. should know how things work. So by mastering, these areas, note-taking, managing the background noise, and meeting the VRI requirements, interpreters can elevate the quality of the service and meet the high professional standards in the industries. Okay, that is the end, and we have discussed the following topics today, and I would welcome any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you very much. Yay. So you actually he spoke super fast, so it went really quickly. And that means that we have a lot of extra time for questions and also some comments. But I just wanted to reiterate that we talked about the importance of training and the industry. It says leveraging remote interpreters and the industries and different types of how to get into the career. And I'm wondering if you could share on the screen maybe a list of those industries in a minute, or maybe send them to me and I can share them at the end. I think it's very interesting if you have it readily available. If not, that's fine. But I think some people would like to see some of the companies that are hiring.
Oh,
So, and yeah,
okay.
or that are out there. I
Um,
just think it's interesting.
Yeah, so I have the whole list. It's not just one company, but there's a problem. Most of the companies are working outside the US, but they're registered inside the US. So I have the list of mixed industries. You know, you never know which companies where. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share that list with you, and then you can forward it to everyone, and
Okay.
they can
Okay,
apply
we can
themselves.
do
But
that.
I'll be more than happy to share the list with you. No problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. I was just going to give an example. I'm not, yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Um,
I mean, I can share my screen if
okay.
that's
Sure. Sure. I think you can
um.
share your screen if you'd like to.
Hold on. Where is it?
I just wanted to give an idea of how many people, how many companies are out there doing this type of over the phone
Yeah.
and video interpreting. And of course, you're talking worldwide. Most of us are interested in the US. And while you're getting that ready, I just wanted to, I think a lot of you have your own uh, questions also about what do you do in certain instances and things like that. I think it would be very great to hear from some of you as well. And there are some questions that I'll bring up. Uh, Interpreting Chinese, transperfect. Oh, I see what this is. Okay, that's okay. That this is not. That's okay. We can straighten up the list and maybe this looks like it's a super small, but okay, very good. So this is just some of the things that we'll be sharing with others, and probably we can just give a website, and that's probably all they need. I'm not sure what the
Of course.
phone number is, if that, yeah, but we can at least share the website with them. So this is probably
Uh,
your private information that we can at least put together the client list, and people can look that up, or we
of
can
course.
give a website. Thank
So
you.
yeah, this is the list of the companies that are from Japan, UAE, UK, Qatar, and USA, Canada, and Australia. So whole lot of list you can apply.
Wow, that's
Um,
incredible.
you guys can apply and let's see if you can find a job.
Thank you very much. All right. Wow. We also have some we have questions and we also have some chats and I'm going to go to a more simple question and that was when you were saying that you actually got a complaint because you were
Looking
can
for a charger,
can you
yes.
yeah, can you turn the video off for a second while you're interpreting and then look for the charger or if you have to drink some water, can you just turn
Mhm.
the video off or what is proper?
Yes, so if you have to turn off the camera for a brief moment, you do not need to ask the client. But if you want to, sometimes they don't need, they would just, there will be a video call, but they won't need your video. You can ask freely to the client, can I turn off my video? And if they don't need your video, they will ask you to turn off. Um, but,
I know an
sorry.
interpreter who said, "Oh, my
Yeah.
camera's broken. Is it okay if I leave my video off?" And it was actually a lie. Her camera was not broken. She just
Yeah.
didn't want to show herself because she had
Well,
stuff going on in the back. But
that
that,
would be not, that would be not professional. Yes, if you, you have the camera, you do not turn it on purpose. But you have to you want to turn off the camera, you ask the client. If they allow, you can turn off the camera. But for a brief moment, for example, I have a glass of water in front of me, and I will just, for a brief moment, I would turn off. Take a sip of water, and that's it. That's how it works. I don't understand this question. Most difficult medical professional to interpret. Sorry, I don't understand the question. You're mute. You're muted.
I'll go through the questions, but maybe you can answer one of them. And again, I want to encourage people because to speak up because I know some of you have a lot of experience and you do this all the time, and we have run into problems that maybe other people don't know about. But let me say something about lighting. Can you explain about how the lights work when you're if you look around at everybody who has their, their um, their videos on. Some people don't have a video on and they have a picture of themselves. Others have a name. Others have first name only and iPhone number two. Or what is the protocol for muting your video? What should it show? Or when you're
So
getting on to like something that like a court session when you have to log into Zoom when you can rename yourself, what is the proper protocol that you would
so
suggest?
if you're a Zoom, if it is a Zoom meeting, it should have your picture on it. Okay, or the company that you represent. But most of the companies have their own website, their own platform. When it's a video call pop up, you turn off the camera from the, you can turn off from there, and they have their own monogram that comes after when you turn off the camera. So mostly when you're interpreting on Zoom or on
Uh-huh.
Skype, it should have your name, your first name. That's all they need to know. Your first name and ID number. Even you're not your last name is not necessary. So first name and ID number, and then your picture on the profile. That's it.
Now, there are some places, I just want to let people know, some places such as the court here in Hawaii, they already have their own protocol. They ask that you put Mandarin in terp. I always shorten it because they say to put like your language and your last name, comma, first name. It's so ridiculously long that no one can see it. So I always just put Mandarin interpreter because that's what they care about. They want to know that you're Mandarin interpreter. And I put dash, but I always shorten it to interp and then dash and then my name. Now in the courtroom, they have to have your full name, but not everybody. So I put like S dot Zung, my last name. You could so in the courtroom they do require you to have that. But S dot Zhang is probably all you need, and they already know that you're the one's going to be there. I think even if you're here in the courtroom, even if you're going through a company, the court really cares about your name because that is for the record and it has to have that on the record. So always, yeah. So what I do is that when I want to make sure personally that when I turn my camera off, that it says who I am. And again, I like to put Mandarin interp, and then if I need my name, I can put my name or Sue or whatever. If it's for schools, they want you to sometimes if I know I'm going to turn off my camera, I will make sure it says that I'm the interpreter in the language. Yeah. I don't know if anybody else has any other experience. But if you're using a platform such as Appropriate one that many of us have used before, it's automatic. And they have their own logo and their own background. And you can choose a virtual background that's blue. When I do interpreting, just to let everybody know, I would never have a background such as I do now. This is like an office type of background. I would not use that when I'm interpreting. It's too cluttery. It's too, but in a Zoom call, it's fine. Or I would just, but many times you can just blur yourself. Yeah, you can blur the background, and all of you should learn how to do that, at least on Zoom. But yeah, so okay. Any other, let's see, we have another question. I would like to ask if the client is asking a yes, no question to the LEP, and the LEP is giving an answer and you mean the LEP? I'm assuming this question means the LEP answers in English before I have a chance to interpret. What do? You just forget it, move on? Let's stop right there. What do you think?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if he's answering and they're good, you just stay quiet. But from time to time, you need to give a reminder to the doctor. Do you still need the interpreter? If they say yes, sometimes they don't need, yeah. Just give them the reminder you're there on the line and you're willing to help, assist.
And let me see.
When you
Maybe I can give some suggestions as well as a trainer myself. Usually, if sometimes we know that when we're in person, a person will answer yes or no before they hear the question interpreted. But I usually interpret it anyway because it's not over the phone where you have to do consecutive. I usually will interpret the question real quickly if I think they may have misunderstood the question. So we know that limited English proficiency can be a high limited English or a low limited English. And so it just depends on, I think as interpreters, we have to pay attention to that. But sometimes when I have interpreted the question after the answer, they change their answer to, oh, because after I interpreted the question, they realized, oh, that's the question. I misunderstood the question. And then they change their answer. So it's very careful. We have to be very careful that I think that at least we interpret the questions if we think that they may not understand or if it's complicated. We don't need to say, oh, what is your name? What is your date of birth? We don't need to interpret things like that. Right. So I think it's very important that we are always paying attention, and I'm constantly judging how good I think the client's English is, and that will tell me how quiet I can be. But yeah, I usually don't say, doctor, do you still need the interpreter? You guys are having a good time, you're talking well, I'm just going to leave. I never say that. Personally, I would just feel that maybe I should be online unless I really know that this person's English is great and they can accomplish what it is they're doing. Maybe it's just a simple exam or something. But yeah, okay. I don't know if somebody else has any comments about that one because I really want to open it up because a lot of you are very professional interpreters. And if not, I will go ahead and read the next question. It says, if a if the doctor is examining a patient and giving him instructions, open your mouth, look straight up, look straight down, look to the right, look to the left, or open your mouth, stick out your tongue, touch your toes. And the patient is doing what is instructed, but I can't see them because maybe I'm on the phone. What do I do?
Sorry, I didn't understand the last part of the questions.
So if the doctor is giving instructions, bend down, touch your toes, open your mouth, stick out your tongue, and it sounds like they're doing it, but I don't know because I'm on the phone. Do I
Oh,
interpret
okay.
it anyway?
Well, interpret it anyway. Yeah, you're there to interpret. Just interpret it anyway. Yeah. I mean, w- there is no big deal in that.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's just you have to you're there as an interpreter, so interpret them, no problem. Yeah.
Excellent. And I just want to tell people that when there's movement involved, do this, do that. We as interpreters, I think, have to be really fast in our interpreting. Even if we're cutting the doctor off halfway, like open your mouth, open and stick out your tongue, open your mouth, stick out your, we have to be really super fast. And that is especially important when somebody is giving birth. There's many times I'm on the phone when someone is giving birth and they're saying, okay, I'm going to count to 10. Or we're going to count to 10 and I want you to push during these 10 seconds. And then I want you to take a breath and whenever you feel the labor pains, okay, we're going to start. Okay, here it's coming again. Now we're going to, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then usually I'll go 1, 2, 3, and then I stop because everybody knows 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I don't have to interpret that. And then when they say stop, okay, or take a break, I'll just quickly take a break. And we have to be so fast. But then the next time, the patient's already getting it, so they probably know, what 1, 2, 3, 4 is already, so So we can gauge, we don't have to interpret everything, like those kinds of things. So just to know that sometimes we have to be super fast when they're asked to do something, turn this way, do that, do this. Yeah. And again, anyone who has anything to say, feel free to unmute and say something. Okay, I'm going to read. Oh, yes, Yuki, go.
Hi.
Hello.
I just wanted to kind of address the conversation of, when the LEP is answering, without the interpreter interpreting first. I think DOE, like Department of Education assignments, a lot of times that happens where everybody's just talking and talking and talking. I might just raise my hand and say, excuse me, would you like to have that interpreted? And just kind of check in that I'm not interpreting. Sometimes the teacher might say, "Oh, it's okay, mom understands." But then mom would say, and she would say, "Mom, it's okay, right? You understand." And the mom would be like, "No, I want interpreting." So then I know that I would have to come and interpret. I think also legal, the attorney will stop the client and say, could you please not answer until the interpreter interprets, just to keep it clean for the record. Otherwise, for medical, I might say, do you want me to just stand by? And sometimes the patient will just say, can you interpret, when they don't understand, but they don't want you to interpret everything. So I guess those are some examples that I've had.
And that's great. I like how you say, excuse me, would you like the interpreter to interpret that? And then the English speakers think, no, they totally understand. And then they're like, no, I don't totally understand. So sometimes we have to repeat that same question in our language, right? So sometimes you have to repeat that. And if you don't, then maybe they don't understand if they're not saying, oh, mom, do you want me to interpret for you that? Are you okay? And then they'll say, oh, I'm okay. So as long as the LEP is saying, I'm okay, no need, then I think that we can trust that. But I don't really trust the teachers, like you just said. That was a good one. And I also want to bring up something that Yuki was telling me yesterday, is that she was on hold at ER. So in our ER, many times the emergency room, they will have a resident doctor do all the questions. Sometimes they have a few x-rays to do, and then they want them to come back with the lab results. And Yuki was telling me yesterday, I've been on hold for an hour. Do I keep staying on? So I can continue holding. And so what happens is that we know that when the first person is going to leave the room, when the doctor's leaving the room, we have to stop them quickly and ask them, excuse me, doctor, did you want the interpreter to continue holding, or did you want to call back? And give them the option of just calling back. And sometimes, like here, they're so afraid they're not going to be able to get another like Japanese interpreter at 10 o'clock at night or whenever it is. They may want you to continue holding because they're so afraid they won't be able to get another interpreter back, because that happens so often. So they may say, oh, could you please continue holding? And okay. And as long as you've done your job and you've asked, then you can continue holding. And I think, Yuki, your longest hold was how long? You, 2 hours. Yeah, that was insane. And like our speaker today said, Tayyab said, some companies have a protocol because they don't want to be charging or paying by accident. And so they have a protocol, like after 15 minutes or so, you're supposed to say, hang up. But sometimes the only one in the room is the patient because the doctor has left already.
Just a clarification though, the providers came back every 30 minutes or so, but I was on the call for about like 2.5 hours. So that's why I was questioning, is it right for me to stay on, or but they expected me to be there. So it was questionable to me. So.
Right. As long as you ask and get clarification, that's really important. Anyone else? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I want to
Looking at
add
other
that
questions. Go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I was also on a call for like almost 3 hours, and it was like a labor and delivery case. And the lady got admitted, and she got an epidural, and she got like everything done. And by the end, she gave a birth to a baby, and everything went so far. And we congratulate. And after that, the call ended. Like there was nothing much to interpret. But they wanted me to stay online, and that the call lasts for like 185 minutes, like more than 3 hours. So like the interpreting time was only, I would say, like 30 minutes or 35, like just explaining how the epidural will work and signing the consent and all those things. The first part, the registration, and everything like else, I was just staying quiet and observing if they need me. And I want to add one thing about this labor and delivery case. Like in such situations, like in our cultural aspect, we also have to respect that as well. Like ladies or females, like they never want a male interpreter to interpret their like GYN concerns. So in that case, like they don't have any choices, right? Like it's really hard to find like a female interpreter most of the time, especially the languages we speak. So but yeah, again, like I would say, when the Dr. Zeng mentioned that like a labor pain and like push or one or two or three, so mostly what I do, I stay quiet at that time because I don't want to hurt her feelings, like the female's feeling, like he's making fun of me. He knows what our culture is, and still he's interpreting and making fun of us. So I mostly stay quiet and observe. And if there's something important that I need to tell, like take a deep breath and start pushing. That's what I interpret. But like mostly like one, two, or three go. These things, the things I avoid interpreting that.
Mhm. And so are you on video or is this phone?
Like like labor and
Like
delivery is
that
not
one?
like a camera. It's
Okay.
OPI.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I think you brought up a really good point. In your language, what is your language or what language were you doing that day?
I am trained by Sir Tayyab Rehman in 2021. I'm a student, one of his student, and I interpret in four languages: Pashto, Punjabi, Urdu, and Hindi. So yeah,
Okay.
these four. Yeah.
Thank you. So I think in Hindi it's easier, at least on our side. We can find there we have many female interpreters in Hindi. But I think that what you said is correct, that some of the languages you speak, it's easier to find a male interpreter. It's hard to find female. And I think in Hawaii, a lot of we do have female interpreters. And what's different is that we can screen the call because we use operators rather than them just calling directly and getting somebody. But many times we can screen the call and know that this is a female only, or they prefer female because this is labor and delivery, for example. So that's probably the benefit of using an operator. At the same time, if yeah, a lot of companies don't, it's just automatic, right?
Yeah.
So
And
So,
yeah, for Pashto and like specifically for Pashto, it's even really hard to find the male interpreters. So like females, I don't think so there are much interpreters because like many calls, like I would say every day literally I get calls that, hey interpreter, any chance you can transfer us to like call to the female interpreter. She doesn't want male interpreter, but at least I give it a try, ma'am. I say I'm not, like, unfortunately I'm not able to do that. I would love to do that, but I cannot. So if you allow me, I can speak to your patient and make her feel comfortable, and if you want to continue with me, she can. So and it works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not.
very good. And we did have somebody that we did have a male Portuguese interpreter interpret for that once because they were the only ones answering the phones. And so anyway, very good.
and sorry, I would like to ask a questions to all of the interpreters and non-interpreters here because I have never come across such a scenario before. It was the day before yesterday. It was a gynae appointment, and the patient actually she delivered a baby, and they were not sure about the name of the baby, and they asked me to name it. Now we cannot share our personal opinions, so I named the baby for them that that very moment. And I just want to know from you people whether I did right or it was right or not as an interpreter. I mean, being professional, is that good? Was not good?
Just to clarify, the mother and father asked you to name the baby. The parents
Exactly.
asked you.
Positive.
Interpreter, could you please give our baby a name?
That's right.
Okay. Okay. What do the rest of you think of that?
Sorry?
What do the rest of you think of that?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes, please. Mr.
Somebody wrote,
Leonardo.
nope.
I would say it's a great thing. They'll remember you for their life, rest of their life.
I would I will double check with them if it's okay, and I will explain to them, I'm not entitled to do that. It is not my job. My job over here is just to interpret, and I would leave at that. I would stay out of that because that can create and open doors for more complications down the road. Like so to speak, like oh, the father say I wanted to call him John, or the mother no, I wanted to call him Jane or a relative and so on and so on. And the question is to me, who am I to tell somebody how to name the child? I'd rather just step out and say, I'm sorry, I cannot help you on that one. That is not, I'm not supposed to do that. It's not professional. It's not, I
Okay.
might be able to give you an idea, a suggestion, but I cannot name it because I would feel uncomfortable. I would say,
Okay.
I'm sorry, I cannot help
Okay.
you on that particular.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you,
I'll be careful.
Leonardo. I want to ask Mary if she has a comment, and then we can come back to you if that's okay, Tia. Yeah, let's hear what different cultures have to say about this.
Thank you. Yes. Being asked to name someone's child is such a great honor because that's the name you will carry for the rest of your life. And I am so impressed and so touched that this family when in our job, we are the bridge between the people that speak our languages and being able to sometimes life or death situations. And being asked this is such an honor, and it depends on what your cultural context is, right? And to me, saying, I'm sorry, that's not my job sounds disrespectful because I know that's how my people would feel. I translate into Samoan, and the walking in and introducing myself and say, I'm your Samoan interpreter. I'm going to sit over there. I'm not allowed to talk to you. I've had that. I've been I've had a patient refuse to answer throughout her entire appointment because I did not sit and converse with her and make her feel comfortable and be culturally respectful and pay her the respect that she is due. So being asked to name depends on your cultural context. And, if it is culturally appropriate and the doctor, and as long as we can't say provider anymore either, as long as the client understands that the patient is asking you to do this and they're okay with that, and you and the patient are okay, I don't see any harm in doing it. And the cultural and for me, as long as both the patient and the staff member, the doctor, are okay with it and you're okay with it, go ahead. What an honor.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for bringing it up.
Before you answer, I think we have some more that wants to say something. Yeah. Anyone have anything about the culture issue? Anyone whose culture would be okay with doing that? Because I know that in some cultures you don't name the child until a week
Therefore,
later or a few days later. And I think also I wanted to point out that I think some cultures feel that you're the interpreter, you speak English, you're a much higher level, you understand the world better. I absolutely respect your opinion because I think you know the Western world, or I think that you would make a better choice, whatever. I think it's very rare in most of our cultures. But the second thing is that I'm just curious because when they said, "Oh, interpreter, could you name our baby?" I mean, I don't know if they called you interpreter, if they called your name. I don't know how you knew that they were talking to you, but I would automatically interpret that. And maybe you did. If they said interpreter, could you help name the baby? I think it's we very we're in the mode of interpreting. An interpreter, could you help name the baby? And I would probably just interpret it. If they
that's
just
right.
said, could you help name the baby? Then I would interpret it, even though I know they're talking to me. Could you help name the baby? And maybe the doctor would say, oh, you want me to help name the baby? And I know in the back of my mind they meant the interpreter, but I would still just interpret it and see what happens. But anyway, I wasn't there in this situation. So go ahead, Taya.
Yeah, so basically it's something very cultural. So we do not do the ultrasounds very much here. We do not want to know the gender of the baby before, until they're born. And we call each other we call each other by brother. We go by brother and sister. So for example, uh, at that moment he says, uh, um, uh, "Brother, can you name my baby for me?" Because they didn't they were not sure what to name the what to call the baby, because and the name was really important because they were taking notes, and they were taking the information for that birth certificate. So it was important, and that's when they asked me to do it for them. I know I don't know if I mean somebody says it goes against the code of ethics, and in naming the baby is giving and making an opinion, which is wrong, but I didn't think much, and when they asked me for a name, I did it.
Same thing happened to me, not exactly same. Like they asked me to, like they had a name for the baby, but they were not sure about the correct spelling for the baby, because they were not educated, they didn't never like saw a school. So they asked me to like name it correctly for the birth certificates. So like I told them prior that I will like spell it correctly for you, but maybe if you want to spell like in your any like if there are any changes you want to make, you can do that. So when I like interpreted the spelling and I told the nurse that they want me to spell the name for the baby, and that's how it goes, and they were fine with that. They were like actually they were happy.
I think Leonardo, you had something to say. Uh-huh.
Yes, I'm just curious on that particular case that you name it. What was the name and what was the meaning?
Um, it the name was Orhan. Actually, my son's name is Orhan, so I
Oh,
named the baby as Orhan. And so far, the meaning is concerned, it's a Turkish name, goes by comes from a Turkish leader. Uh, he was a Turkish king in the history, maybe
I see.
somewhere in 13th century, and his name it means meek in spirit or manner. It's
Well,
you can call it.
the only thing I can say, I hope I'll never be in that situation because it will take me a while to
Mhm.
process that. But also, again, you got to take in consideration the culture. And sometime, if you know the patient or the client rather, or the patient, yeah, you might feel some connection, and that will put you in a different level, so to speak, as a John Doe interpreter, as a my friend. I know this interpreter. You know what I mean? I would consider that, and I would play it accordingly myself.
Exactly. Thank you so much. I mean, I wasn't really sure, to be honest, but I'll be careful next time.
Good job.
Thanks.
Okay, we have another question. It says, so when you say, it says you to say neutral, but it says some LEPs want to talk to the interpreters. And when the person leaves the room, the provider, whoever he is, leaves the room, sometimes they will tell you the real situation. Or this one like in a police station. They told really what happened. So how do we handle that if like the provider leaves the room and say, interpreter, you know that this, all of a sudden they're telling you more information. So how would you handle that?
Yes, so when the provider is not there and the LEP want to connect with you, just simply tell them that you're not able to talk to him. You're not allowed to talk to him, in the absence of the provider. Just stay mute. And if the LEP shares something that is dangerous or a risk to someone's life or his life, just share it with the doctor at the very moment when he comes in. But you do not yourself talk to the LEP in the absence of the doctor.
So I think what you're saying is that we avoid it altogether.
That's
So
right.
when the doctor, or let's say it's a doctor, when they walk out of the room, we're just silent. So what I do is that if the LEP tries to say something to me, I just don't answer, because unless I'm on video, if you're on video, then they know you're there. And then you can easily say, why don't we wait for the doctor to come back? And then I'd be happy to interpret that question to him, or let me
That's
interpret that for you
that's
when
right.
he comes back. Yeah. But if you're on the phone, sometimes if you're just silent, they don't know if you're still there. And so you just kind of fake it. You can do whatever you want. You can be as silent as you want to, and they will stop talking. I never say anything. I'm just silent.
That's right. As an interpreter, somebody says, as an interpreter, oh, where did it go? As an interpreter, your job, where did it go? Sorry. As an
Yeah.
interpreter, your main job is to interpret and not to interact and talk. Sorry, that's exactly what we are talking about. So if the doctor is not there and the parent asks you to name the baby, what would you say? Well, I would wait for the doctor to come, and then I will explain the scenario of what is going on. I will ask the doctor, say to the doctor, doctor, they want me to name the baby. And if it's a good go, I mean, I would go ahead with that.
Okay. And I think sometimes also going back to the talking to you, sometimes they can be so nervous. Oh my God, do you think I'm going to die? Oh my God, do you think my baby's going to die? And I think that this final comment here was kind of addressing that. I usually try to, like if we're in person, usually we walk and stay outside the door when the nurse leaves waiting for the doctor, we wait outside. Yeah. But on the phone, of course, we're there anyway. And many times you can just say, instead of, we don't want to comfort, right? Don't worry, everything will be okay. You're in the hospital. We don't want to be comforting. But sometimes just being there is a comfort. And sometimes we could just nod if we're on video. Or I never say, don't talk to me because this is against my code of ethics or something. I just let them go on, and I don't say
Yeah.
anything.
So
Or when the
I
doctor
mentioned
comes
it.
back, we can tell him.
Mhm. We mentioned it that, just stay polite. You can just politely tell them that you're not allowed to speak to them in the absence of the doctor. When he comes, we can, I can relay the information to the doctor. But at this very moment, even what I do is I turn off my camera the moment the doctor leaves and put myself on mute so that even if they talk to me, I don't respond. That's what the protocol of the, is with of the company that I'm working with.
One thing I would like to say here, like I would like to ask everyone, before the surgeries, the anesthesiologist comes in and the surgeon comes in and they tell you about what's going to happen, what are the risks, what are the benefits. Like in our culture or in our country, nobody says that. If you are like a contestant for a surgery, you'll just go for the surgery. Nobody comes to you. They'll just put you to sleep and they'll do the surgery. But in the United States, they'll explain you everything. And the one thing that is like really concerning to me, they say, like the surgeon or the anesthesiologist, rarely happen, but you can die as well. They say like straightly, and I'm really afraid to interpret that part. Like whenever like it happened to me, when I say like you can die as well, or some like an organs can be damaged, like by for this procedure, and they said no, 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 I don't, we don't want to do the surgery then, we don't want to do the surgery then. So they just cancel the surgery because of the the side effects or because of the risks. So I'm not sure like how, like is there any specific way that you can interpret that part about the risk, or like you'll just go with the flow?
And this is open to anyone, right? What do the rest of you feel about that? I think it happens to all of us. Anyone else have a way of handling that? Uh, Terry said you just keep interpreting what's being said. Anyone else have a way of handling that? Joanne,
Same here. Interpret as is.
Yes,
even
so
in, okay. Mhm.
I agree with Terry. Yes.
Even
Because they
English
always
speakers will
ask
feel.
that, but with a minimum risk. So I make sure that is also conveyed.
I'm going to be honest. Sometimes I add a few words. Sometimes I'll say, like if they say, well, this is a minimum risk, but you could have internal bleeding and even death. But before they start that, they usually start with the risks. So I usually say, sometimes not usually, but sometimes I'll add this. For all surgeries, we also have to tell you the risks. It's by law. We have to tell you the risks involved. And sometimes I'll kind of add that by law, we have to tell you the risks involved or something. And then when they talk about, there's certain things, sometimes I will say, and um, and one of the biggest risks, of course, is death. But again, this is a minimum risk. If they say it's a minimum risk in the beginning of the sentence, I will put it at the end of the sentence. Yeah, just and sometimes because they don't understand the same thing that you brought up. Why are you telling me this? Why don't you make the decision? Yeah, and so anybody else want to say?
so culturally, different languages behave differently. So the way it's good to interpret what's being said, but sometimes what you're saying mean have has a different meaning in the other language you're interpreting. I gave you the example of the chest and the breast that had the same meaning. So it's okay sometimes to ask the doctor and bring up the cultural differences and clarify it for the doctor and tell him to you know maybe start by saying this is your interpreter. I think he's having some confusion, and uh, if I have your permission, if you allow me, I can explain it in my own words to the LEP for him to understand. If he still refuses, then it's his go with that.
And I usually don't explain anything. I'll just say, "This is your interpreter." Excuse me, the interpreter. I just say the interpreter. The interpreter thinks that there may be confusion because of the risk that he may think that this is what's going to happen. And I bring up the problem and then let the doctor explain. And then I go back into interpreting. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, Mary.
I have a question on a different matter.
Okay, sure.
Our roles as interpreters, we've been told, especially in the mental health area, that we are mandatory reporters. Could you speak to that? Because there's a lot of talk today about keeping confidentiality. And could you, define our roles as mandatory reporters as far as when we are contracted to work for to translate in especially mental health and in family court situations. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't even understand what you mean by mandatory
Ma-
reporters. You mean if they want to harm themselves,
Yes, or someone
Tayyab,
else.
you understand?
Yes.
Yes, so basically, when there is this conversation between the mental health provider and the patient, they inform him in the beginning that we will keep your information private, we will not share it without your consent unless there is harm to your life or someone else's life. So they do inform the LEP as well, and we are definitely mandatory reporters. If we suspect something like that in the absence of the provider or the doctor, we are supposed to let the doctor know. I hope I answered
Especially
your
if the
question.
in the absence. So you're saying that because if the doctor is there, he's going to hear it as well, or she or the therapist, and they're required to report it, not us, right? So, but if I think what you're saying is how Tayyab answered it is that if they leave the room and they tell you, okay, that's it. When I leave here, I'm going to kill myself. Then we are required to report it when the doctor comes back. Oh, I just wanted to interpret something that the patient said. He said that when he leaves this room, he's going to kill himself. And so we stick to interpreting, but we just say it when they come back. Yeah, very good. Okay, we have just a few more minutes. Thank you. These are great questions, and we're almost out of time. I just wanted to say something. I've noticed here that a lot of people interpret in the car, or they're in their cars when they're doing it, and they're running around and they're using their phone. So a lot of people here use their phone and videos, and we know that that looks very unprofessional, but it also affects your hearing. You just can't hear that well. I've seen it in the courtroom. I've seen defendants in their car, even driving, and they're caught using their cell phone while driving, and then they come to court while driving in their car on their cell phone. It's just so crazy. And the judge, are you driving right now? Oh, and so, but for interpreters to be that dumb, I'm sorry, it makes us look like we're dumb defendants because we're sitting there in the car. We may not be driving, but we got our cell phone on and we're holding it in our hand and it's moving around, the video. It's just so unprofessional. So I would strongly like to recommend to and urge everybody that if you cannot do a professional background, or maybe you just say, Your Honor, is it okay if I need my video? Well, they're not going to. In the court, they make you actually turn on your video. It's most of the time. But even if you're in the car, you can still sit down on the other passenger side or somewhere where you have a better background if you blur your background. But it happens here. We just use our phones because we're on the run. But I really want to encourage everyone to get really good headsets. Don't sit there and try to listen with your ears. But even these headsets I'm using are wired and hooked up, but they're not noise cancellation. And what I mean by noise cancellation is microphone noise cancellation, so that the microphone opens when you're talking close to it and will close when you're not close to it. And Tayyab is using that type of microphone. He may have some background noise. None of us hear it because when he speaks, the microphone opens. So if you're going to buy some good headsets, you should look for mic noise cancellation headsets, and that will stop the background noise. I just wanted to point that out. Yeah. You can get them anywhere online. So, all right, very good. I have another thing I wanted to bring up real quick, and I know that we're at the end, is that sometimes when we're on the phone, we can't hear. So the doctors and I say medical because we do so much medical here. Sometimes the doctor will put the phone on a counter and they're doing something and you hear some speaking and you have no idea, am I supposed to interpret that? How do we handle that? Or if we can't hear very well because because of the other side.
Yeah, if you cannot hear anything, definitely you're not going to interpret. Just ask the doctor, and they tell him this is your interpreter. I cannot hear you. You're cutting off very badly, and I suggest you give us a call back to ensure the accuracy. Or
Or
if you
that
have,
maybe you move closer to the microphone or move
well,
closer to the phone.
if that's an option, then of course you can, you're going to take everything into consideration. If it's the network, okay, on your end, just log out and get away from from your device. Um, and if it's on the client end, and it's some unusual situation, like there is some disruption that you're not sure about, just ask the client to call back, or you can if you have the option, you can transfer your call to another interpreter.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to open it up. We have maybe one last question, or does anyone have any comments or suggestions? Because some of you have been doing this for so long. Any comments or suggestions or questions? Maybe just raise your hand or just unmute. Anybody? I do want to, yeah, Leonardo, go ahead.
Thank you very much for the feedback, the input, and you sharing your experience with us on this side of the world. Uh, it's very interesting to see how different each part of the world, the same interpreting, but it's a little bit different, you know. So I personally appreciate that. We want to thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And
Yeah.
it was actually my first ever experience to speak in front of a foreign audience. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
I know
very
you
good.
do
I
a lot
mean,
of
I liked it.
training. Yeah,
Yeah,
you do a lot of training, but this is
that's
really a
right.
great opportunity. And I
Yeah.
wanted to just say that some of you speak a language, maybe Portuguese, maybe some other rarer languages that you're not used a lot in Hawaii. So this is a really good opportunity for you to maybe join a mainland company where you might have to change your time zone a little bit when you're interpreting. But it might be a great opportunity to join something where you can get more jobs over the phone, over video. I know people who wake up here in Hawaii and every morning they go into the other room and they're interpreting whenever the call comes in, and they're making extra money by doing that. And then they go out their day. They get up super early, start interpreting, and then they go about their day. But there's one thing is that the negotiable, I think prices are negotiable when you're trying to get a job. Some they just won't negotiate at all, but other companies they will, and you'll really have to prove yourself that no, I think I'm worth more, and you want me to have a certificate in medical interpreting where we don't have that in our language, but I've studied this, I've studied that, I've studied a year and a half long of courses, and I have a different type of certificate and things like that. You think you really have to push yourself in order to get a higher price. So, all right, any parting words? If not, I wanted to conclude again by sharing your let me just show this one more time. This is his contact. This is Tayyab's contact, and this is his email. So if you're interested in writing to him directly, please feel free to do that. We have recorded this. We will be putting it up on our um, uh, in our HITA website area. And if you have any ideas of future talks that you'd like to have, any future webinars, if you yourself are interested in giving a webinar, we would love to hear from you. If you have a suggestion of somebody to be a speaker, we would love to hear that as well. And so please join HITA if you can. It'd be great. We're going to be having an annual meeting coming up soon and voting on new officers and just see where we can go in the future. As we're in Hawaii, but today we have heard from somebody, in Pakistan talking about the world, and it's open to us. And so we really want to thank Tayyab for coming with us today and opening our eyes to see what is really out there. So we want to give him a round of applause and thank you again. So thank you, everyone. We hope to see you again in the future. Thank you. Let's hear from you by email or chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Yeah.